Well, Rob, we had a bit of a soggy finish yesterday on the JSE, dipped back into the red again today, and really it looks pretty directionless. Are you surprised that we haven't picked up, given the positive news that came out of Greece over the weekend when they did secure that financing from European Union and also that IMF loan? So things looking a little bit better on that side, but our market's still in the doldrums.
Well, I think really the key is earnings coming through in the States over the next week, a week and a half. I think that the emerging markets indexes are all breaking up, and we see that the Dow is now is trying to break a 2-year downtrend line, which is quite a strong resistance line. So I think people are taking a little bit of profit and just taking their foot off the pedal and are waiting for confirmation on earnings coming through in the States.
Well, perhaps just take a look at what we're expecting from this earnings season. Of course, we had Alcoa kicking off earnings season yesterday with its results coming out after the bell in the United States. So the Dow really not reacting to that yesterday. And it seems it was a mixed bag from Alcoa. Profits in line, but revenue slightly disappointing. And those shares down in after-hours trade.
Yes, I think obviously slightly better than expected, but still making a loss. Their sales were slightly improved, but it shows you just that in certain sectors that they really are battling, and a lot of it is in the construction side, and obviously in the States, on the housing side, where they need metal for construction, and that's really still slow, and labouring. Not really correcting as quickly as everybody thought. So I think Alcoa at the moment still showing you that yes, improving, but not as quickly as everybody thought.
Of course, we have a bigger consumer-facing company coming up with results this evening. That's Intel. It makes PC chips. Do you think that we're going to see any pickup in that market, with consumers maybe coming back to the markets and upgrading their PCs following the downturn?
I think also there's been a lot of phones coming onto the market that use a lot of data, and an increase in processing power is needed. I think the numbers from Intel are going to look very good. The indication so far that they've had a bit of a bumper first quarter. So I think the numbers there are very good, and I think that companies also didn't really spend in 2009, and they were holding back on spending, especially on the computer side. So I think that Intel's numbers will be very good at the end of business today.
Rob, what are we really looking for from the US companies with the reporting back? Of course, last time around when they reported back, we were looking for growth in the revenue and in the profit line. Also, very carefully looking at those statements that accompany the results. What's the market looking for this time? What sort of growth do you want to see?
Well, in general, people are looking for above 30% on average in earnings, increasing by 30%. So it is quite a big ask, and I think that the market has priced in 30% increase in earnings. I think if over the next 2 weeks we don't see an increase in earnings on average above 30%, the market will sell off and we won't break these resistance levels that we are currently at. So I think the markets and the companies that are going to be reporting will have to be reporting increases of above 30%. Increase in earnings from the last quarter.
Rob, so are we saying that if we see a 30% growth in earnings from US companies, it would then justify the levels that the Dow has reached? And of course, you mentioned a little earlier, the Dow closing above 11,000 last night at key technical levels. Would 30% growth justify that level?
I think it will. I think if companies start to produce that type of earnings, the dividends also will start to come back on. We'll start to see the yields increasing as well, even though obviously in the States they're coming from very low base. And I think it will justify where we are priced at the moment. And we'll probably see another influx of buying coming into the markets,
if the market
including the emerging markets.
If the market is disappointed, however, what sort of a pullback would you expect on global markets, and including South Africa, of course?
I think we can see probably about 10% pullback. The world economies are still recovering. We're not going back into recession, but it'll just obviously be slower than was expected, and I think that we slightly will be overpriced then, and probably about 10% pullback is likely if earnings just don't come through correctly.
Of course, you were talking about some of the critical levels we're reaching on world indices. Of course, the JSE very close to that 30,000 mark, not quite there yet. We also had gold at 4-month highs yesterday, platinum looking very good as well. So commodity prices have also been running quite nicely, though pulling back a little bit today, Rob.
Yes, I think so. I think that there was a little bit of a firmer dollar that pushed the commodity prices down. I think people taking profit on the gold side. It's run very quickly up to 4-month highs of $1,172. So I think a little bit of profit taking coming on the gold side. And as well, we're just waiting as we see that China's coming through, starting to tighten some of its monetary policy there, and their loans were slowed down quite aggressively in March to 500 billion yuan. And I think that slight easing in the commodity pricing is expected over the next week or so.
Rob, the rand might be a little bit confusing. We saw the euro weakening significantly from Friday to Monday after Greece secured that loan from the European Union, that $30 billion loan. The rand, you'd have expected perhaps to strengthen along with the euro. In fact, we have been weakening. We're currently just below the 730 level. Why do you think the rand's not keeping up with the euro at this stage, and where to from here for the rand?
Well, I think rand dollar 720 is a very big level. It's got a resistance line at 720, and it can't seem to break through that. It's been there for quite some time over the last few months, and it has been consolidating around that 720 level. There's a lot of importer demand coming around the 720 level, and possibly the Reserve Bank playing a role there and picking up some reserves at those levels as well. Obviously, the euro being our biggest importer of goods, we watch it very closely, but the euro has been under immense pressure, and there's been a slight disconnect between the euro and then the dollar rand value as well. So I think if we get stabilization in the euro with this with the Greek debt issues, then we'll start to see it the rand, dollar and euro start to come in line again. But there's been a slight disconnect with all of this array in Europe.
Of course, not much coming out on the corporate front in South Africa. There was an Anglo-Plat site visit yesterday and today. Of course, we do know that Anglo-Plat has said it's looking at lifting up production by an additional 200,000 ounces this year, and really due to the demand it's seeing coming through here. How have you been viewing that statement coming out of Anglo-Platinum?
Well, it's very positive that they see that the demand will be needed. The problem with Anglo-Plat is, can they actually get an extra 200,000 ounces of what they're looking to get out of the ground through by the end of the year, and that's a challenge for them. So if the demand is there, can they actually produce that extra 200,000 ounces? We'll just have to wait to see if they can. They said that they will keep costs flat for this year, which is very promising.